The emergency broadcast crackled through the quantum communication array, its desperate tone cutting through the routine chatter of deep space traffic control. Commander Sarah Chen leaned forward in her chair aboard the orbital station Luna 7, her coffee growing cold as she listened to the frantic transmission. "This is Research Vessel Pristine, thought of the Zalani Collective. We are trapped in the Corex Nebula. Our ship is failing. Radiation levels are critical. We have children aboard. Please, anyone who receives this message, we need immediate assistance." The transmission repeated 3 times before dissolving into static. Sarah's hands were already moving across her console, pulling up star charts and calculating distances. The Corex Nebula was a nightmare of electromagnetic storms and radiation fields that most species avoided completely. Even the hardy Korthani traders, known for their willingness to venture into dangerous space, gave it a wide berth. "Ma'am, I'm picking up 17 life signs on that vessel," reported Lieutenant Rodriguez from the sensor station. "The transmission originated from coordinates 847.3 by 221.7, roughly 4 light-years inside the nebula's outer boundary." Sarah's mind raced. The Zalani were one of the newer species to join the Galactic Council, a peaceful race of scholars and scientists who spent their lives studying cosmic phenomena. They were also notoriously fragile, their homeworld a garden paradise with gentle gravity and a perfectly controlled atmosphere. The idea of them being trapped in one of the galaxy's most hostile environments was horrifying. "Get me Admiral Thompson immediately," she ordered, her fingers already composing a priority alert. "And patch this transmission to Earth Command, Mars Defense Grid, and all active fleet elements in our sector." Within minutes, the response was overwhelming. Sarah watched her communication board light up like a festival display as messages poured in from across human space. The first response came from the mining ship Rusty Bucket, operating near the asteroid belt. "Luna 7, this is Captain Morrison on the Bucket. We heard the distress call. We're changing course now, ETA to Nebula Edge approximately 8 hours. More voices joined the channel. The passenger liner Golden Dawn, carrying 300 tourists to the Jupiter resorts. Diverted course without hesitation. The cargo hauler Big Bertha, loaded with agricultural supplies for the outer colonies, fired its engines and began the long burn toward the nebula. Even the scientific research vessel Curious Mind, which had been studying the strange properties of dark matter near Pluto, abandoned its experiments to join the growing convoy. Admiral Thompson's face appeared on Sarah's main screen, his weathered features grim with determination. "Commander, I've got every available ship in the sector converging on those coordinates. The heavy cruiser Defiant is already en route with a full medical team." "Admiral, the radiation levels in that nebula will fry most of our electronics," Sarah warned. "The Zalani ship is 4 light-years inside the boundary. That's deep into the storm zone." "Then we'll go in with hardened systems and radiation shielding," Thompson replied without hesitation. "I'm authorizing deployment of the emergency rescue protocols. Every ship with military-grade shielding is being recalled from patrol duty." Sarah pulled up the tactical display, watching as dozens of blue icons representing human vessels began converging on the nebula from all directions. It was an impressive sight, but she couldn't shake the feeling that it might not be enough. The Corex Nebula had claimed dozens of ships over the centuries. Even the most advanced vessels struggled with its chaotic electromagnetic fields and deadly radiation. "Ma'am, I'm receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council," Lieutenant Rodriguez announced. "It's Ambassador Vorthak of the Stellar Assembly." The image that appeared on screen showed a tall, elegant being with silver skin and large, dark eyes. The Vorthak were known throughout the galaxy as master diplomats and strategic thinkers, but the expression on the ambassador's face was one of deep concern. "Commander Chen, I have been monitoring the situation with the Zalani vessel. I must express the Assembly's gratitude for humanity's immediate response. However, I feel compelled to point out the extreme danger of this undertaking. The Corex Nebula has been classified as a Class 5 hazard zone for good reason." Sarah kept her voice steady and professional. "Ambassador, We appreciate your concern. However, 17 beings are in immediate danger. We cannot simply abandon them. The Assembly has dispatched our most advanced rescue vessel, but it will not arrive for another 43 hours, Vorthak continued. The radiation levels inside the nebula would prove fatal to most known species within 6 hours of exposure. Even our ship, with its advanced shielding, cannot venture more than 1 light year into the storm zone safely. Then it's fortunate that humans are particularly stubborn, Sarah replied, earning a slight smile from Admiral Thompson on her secondary screen. The truth was more complex than mere stubbornness, though Sarah didn't feel the need to explain humanity's unique advantages to the ambassador. Humans had evolved on a death world, a planet where everything from the weather to the wildlife seemed designed to kill them. Earth's magnetic field fluctuations, solar radiation, and violent storms had forged a species that could survive in environments that would quickly prove fatal to most galactic citizens. More importantly, human technology had developed along different lines than that of their galactic neighbors. Where most species had focused on avoiding dangerous environments, humans had learned to thrive in them. Their ships were overbuilt and redundant, designed to keep functioning even when half their systems failed. Their crews trained for worst-case scenarios that other species couldn't even imagine. Admiral, I'm seeing confirmation from the Defiant, Sarah reported. They're reporting successful nebula entry. Radiation levels are high, but within acceptable parameters. Copy that. The Defiant has the best shielding in the fleet, Thompson replied. I've also got 3 more heavy ships crossing the boundary now. The destroyers Lightning and Thunder plus the assault carrier Normandy. Sarah watched the tactical display as the human ships pushed deeper into the swirling chaos of the nebula. Each vessel represented hundreds of lives being risked to save 17 beings they had never met and would likely never see again. It was a fundamentally human response, one that had puzzled their alien allies since first contact 30 years ago. The galaxy was full of species that were smarter than humans, stronger, or more technologically advanced. The Zalani themselves possessed scientific knowledge that made human researchers weep with envy. The Korthani had faster ships and better weapons. The Vorthak could calculate strategic outcomes with computer-like precision. But when someone sent out a desperate cry for help, it was always the humans who came running. Commander, I'm picking up a new transmission from inside the nebula, Rodriguez announced. It's coming from the Defiant. Captain Maria Santos appeared on screen, her face illuminated by the red emergency lighting of her ship's bridge. Behind her, Sarah could see crew members working frantically at their stations, and the distinctive flicker of electromagnetic interference was visible in the transmission. Luna 7, this is Santos on the Defiant. We've located the Zalani vessel at coordinates 851.7 by 2I19.3. The ship is badly damaged but still intact. They've lost main power and life support is failing. We're reading critical radiation exposure for at least half the crew. What's your status, Captain? Thompson asked. We're taking a beating out here, Admiral, but we're still operational. The electromagnetic storms are playing hell with our navigation systems, but we're managing. The real problem is going to be getting the Zalani to safety. Their ship is too damaged to move under its own power, and our tractor beams won't work reliably in these conditions. Sarah studied the tactical display, noting the positions of the other human vessels converging on the nebula. Captain Santos, the Thunder and Lightning should be reaching your position within the hour. Between the 3 ships, you should be able to manage a joint rescue operation. That's the plan, Commander. We're already preparing boarding pods with full radiation shielding. The medical team is standing by to treat radiation poisoning in multiple species. The next few hours were tense ones. Sarah coordinated the rescue effort from Luna 7, while Admiral Thompson managed the overall fleet response from his flagship. Messages poured in from across human space as more ships joined the effort. A hospital ship diverted from its route to the outer colonies. A scientific vessel with advanced sensor arrays volunteered to map safe passage routes through the nebula. Even civilian vessels offered their assistance, though most were turned away for their own safety. What struck Sarah most was the universal nature of the response. Rich and poor, military and civilian, corporate and independent, every human ship that could possibly help had volunteered. There had been no debate, no cost-benefit analysis, no political considerations. Someone needed help, so humans helped. It was that simple. As the rescue operation continued, Sarah received an encrypted message from Earth Command. The contents were brief, but significant. The Galactic Council had taken note of humanity's response and was discussing formal recognition of human rescue capabilities. There was talk of establishing joint emergency response protocols and even creating a galaxy-wide rescue service with human ships as the core component. But those were concerns for politicians and diplomats. Right now, Sarah's entire focus was on the 17 Zilani scientists trapped in the nightmare of the Corex Nebula and the human crews risking everything to bring them home. The first positive report came just after midnight, station time. Captain Santos's voice crackled through the quantum communicator, distorted but triumphant. Luna 7, this is the Defiant. We have successfully evacuated all 17 Zilani from their disabled vessel. Repeat, all 17 are alive and accounted for. Medical team reports severe radiation exposure for 12 individuals, but all are expected to make full recoveries with proper treatment. Sarah felt a wave of relief wash over her. Around the command center, she could hear quiet cheers and sighs of relief from her crew. They had done it. Against all odds, despite the dangers and the distance, they had saved every single life. Outstanding work, Captain. Admiral Thompson's voice came through clearly. What's the status of the rescue fleet? All ships report successful operations, Admiral. We took some damage from the electromagnetic storms, but nothing that can't be repaired. The convoy is forming up now for the journey back to safe space. As Sarah watched the tactical display update, showing the human ships beginning their careful withdrawal from the nebula, she couldn't help but smile. In just a few hours, the impossible had become routine. 17 beings who should have died in the cosmic maelstrom were now safe aboard human vessels, receiving the best medical care the fleet could provide. The galaxy would remember this day, she realized, not just as another example of human stubbornness or reckless bravery, but as proof of something more fundamental. When the chips were down and lives hung in the balance, humanity could be counted on to answer the call. It was a reputation that would serve them well in the challenges to come. Ambassador Vorthak stood in the observation deck of the Stellar Assembly flagship Eternal Wisdom, watching through the transparent aluminum viewport as dozens of human vessels streamed past their position. Each ship burned hard toward the Corex Nebula, their engines leaving brilliant trails against the star field. The sight was both impressive and deeply unsettling to the experienced diplomat. They are quite remarkable, aren't they? The voice belonged to Dr. Zenth, a Zilani representative who had arrived aboard the assembly vessel just hours earlier. Her translucent skin had taken on a pale blue hue, indicating her deep concern for her people trapped in the nebula. Remarkable is one word for it, Vorthak replied, his silver fingers tracing patterns on the viewport's surface. Reckless might be another. I have never witnessed such a large-scale mobilization happen so quickly. Most species require days of planning and committee approvals for operations far less dangerous than this. Dr. Zenth moved to stand beside him, her large eyes reflecting the light from the passing human ships. The humans responded to our people's distress call within minutes. I have been monitoring their communications networks. Every available vessel within a 50-light-year radius has been diverted to assist in this rescue effort. Many have volunteered despite having no official obligation to do so. Through the viewport, they watched as a massive human cargo vessel swept past, its hull scarred and weathered from countless journeys through dangerous space. The ship's identification beacon marked it as the Stellar Nomad, an independent freighter that had apparently abandoned a lucrative cargo run to join the rescue fleet. That particular vessel carries grain shipments to the outer colonies, Vorthak noted, consulting his personal datapad. According to our economic models, the captain has just sacrificed approximately 40,000 credits in lost revenue to participate in this operation. And yet he came anyway, Dr. Zenth observed, as did dozens of others. I do not understand the economic logic, but I am profoundly grateful for it. Vorthak had studied human behavior for 15 years, ever since first contact had brought the strange Deathworlders into galactic society. They defied every behavioral model the Assembly had developed. Most species made decisions based on careful risk analysis and resource management. Humans seemed to operate on pure instinct, especially when others were in danger. The communication array chimed, indicating an incoming transmission. The holographic display activated, showing the weathered face of a human ship captain. The man's uniform was patched and worn, suggesting he commanded one of the independent vessels rather than a military ship. Assembly Vessel Eternal Wisdom. This is Captain Rodriguez aboard the merchant ship Fortune's Fool. We're carrying emergency medical supplies and radiation treatment equipment, requesting permission to transfer our cargo to your medical bay for distribution to the rescue fleet. Vorthak exchanged glances with Dr. Zenth before responding. Captain Rodriguez, while we appreciate your offer, our medical facilities are designed for assembly species physiology. We are not equipped to treat humans suffering from radiation exposure. That's not a problem, Ambassador. We're not planning on getting exposed. These supplies are for the Zilani survivors. Our medical AI has spent the last 6 hours analyzing Zilani physiology and preparing treatment protocols. We figure you folks might need the extra equipment. The casual confidence in the human's voice was staggering. His ship's medical AI had, in 6 hours, accomplished analysis that would take assembly scientists weeks to complete. More importantly, he was volunteering to transfer valuable medical supplies without any expectation of compensation. We would be honored to accept your assistance, Captain, Vorthak replied, still processing the implications of what he had heard. As the Fortune's Fool maneuvered closer to transfer its cargo, Vorthak's communication officer approached with a concerned expression. Ambassador, I have been monitoring human fleet communications. The rescue operation is far more extensive than we initially realized. Explain. The humans have established a complete supply chain to support their fleet. Medical ships, supply vessels, repair crews, even mobile shipyards have been dispatched to provide support. They are treating this as a full-scale military campaign. Vorthak felt a chill run through his normally composed demeanor. How many ships are we talking about, Lieutenant? Current count stands at 237 vessels, Ambassador. The number continues to grow as more ships report their intention to join the operation. Dr. Zenth gasped audibly. 237 ships? For 17 of my people? The cost alone must be enormous. How can they possibly justify such an expenditure? That's what I don't understand, the communications officer continued. According to their transmissions, there has been no formal government authorization for this operation, no central command structure, no official budget allocation. Individual ships and captains are simply deciding to participate on their own initiative. Vorthak stared out at the endless stream of human vessels. Each ship represented hundreds or thousands of individuals who had made the decision to risk their lives and livelihoods for people they had never met. It was behavior that challenged every assumption about rational species development. Ambassador, the communications officer said quietly, there's something else. The humans have been sharing their navigation data and tactical information freely with any vessel that requests it. They're not even keeping their military capabilities secret. Any species could learn valuable intelligence about human fleet operations simply by monitoring their rescue communications. They trust everyone, Dr. Xenth whispered. Despite the risks, despite the potential for exploitation, they simply trust that others will act honorably. The implications were staggering. The Galactic Council had spent decades trying to establish information-sharing protocols between member species. Trust was built slowly, through careful negotiations and mutually beneficial agreements. Yet here were the humans, broadcasting tactical data and revealing military capabilities to anyone within range of their transmissions, simply because it might help save lives. A new transmission came through, this one marked with the highest priority codes. The image that appeared showed Admiral Thompson aboard the human flagship, his expression serious but determined. Assembly Vessel Eternal Wisdom, this is Admiral Thompson commanding the human rescue fleet. We've successfully penetrated the outer regions of the Corex Nebula and are making good progress toward the Zalani vessel. However, we've encountered some complications. Vorthak leaned forward. What kind of complications, Admiral? The electromagnetic storms are worse than our initial projections indicated. We're having to reroute several squadrons to safer corridors, which is adding time to the operation. More importantly, we've detected gravitational anomalies near the Zalani vessel's position that suggest possible structural collapse within the nebula itself. Dr. Xenth's skin turned an even paler shade of blue. Structural collapse? What does that mean for my people? It means the safe zone where their ship is located may not remain safe for much longer, Thompson explained. We need to accelerate our timeline. I'm requesting assistance from any assembly vessels with advanced sensor capabilities. We need real-time mapping of the gravitational distortions to navigate safely through the affected region. Vorthak didn't hesitate. You'll have it, Admiral. I'm ordering our science vessel Analytical Mind to join your fleet immediately. Their quantum sensors should be able to provide the mapping data you require. Much appreciated, Ambassador. Thompson out. As the transmission ended, Vorthak realized he had just committed assembly resources to support a human operation without consulting the Council. It was a decision that could have serious political ramifications, but he found he didn't care. The humans were risking everything to save 17 Zalani scientists. The least the Assembly could do was provide some sensor data. Ambassador, Dr. Xenth said softly, why are they doing this? I have studied dozens of species across the galaxy, and I have never encountered anything like this level of selfless commitment to strangers. Vorthak had been wondering the same thing. The human response defied every model of rational behavior. No species should be willing to risk so much for so little gain. Yet the evidence was undeniable. I think, he said slowly, it has something to do with their evolution. Most of our species developed on worlds that were relatively safe and stable. Competition for resources was manageable, threats were predictable, survival was a matter of careful planning and cooperation within established social groups. He gestured toward the viewport, where more human ships continued to stream past. But humans evolved on a death world, a planet where survival required constant adaptation, where threats came from all directions, where the only way to survive was to help each other regardless of tribal affiliation. They learned that when someone was in trouble, everyone had to help, because next time it might be you who needed saving. So this behavior is instinctual for them? Dr. Xenth asked. I believe so. They literally cannot ignore a cry for help, any more than we could ignore the need to breathe. It's written into their genetic code by millions of years of evolution. The communication array activated again, this time showing a young human officer aboard one of the military vessels. Assembly vessel, this is Lieutenant Martinez aboard the destroyer Lightning. We're beginning final approach to the Zalani vessel's position. Admiral Thompson has requested that any non-essential personnel be evacuated to minimum safe distance. Acknowledged, Lieutenant, Vorthak replied. We are moving to the designated coordinates now. As the Eternal Wisdom adjusted course, Vorthak found himself thinking about the implications of what he was witnessing. The human response to this crisis would be studied for generations. Every species in the galaxy would want to understand how a single distress call had mobilized an entire civilization within hours. More importantly, this operation would change how other species viewed humanity. The humans had already earned a reputation as formidable warriors and innovative engineers. Now they were proving themselves as something far more rare and valuable, a species that could be trusted absolutely to do the right thing, regardless of the cost. "Ambassador," the communications officer called out, "I'm receiving reports from the human fleet. They've made contact with the Zalani vessel and are beginning evacuation procedures. All 17 crew members have been located and are in stable condition." Dr. Zenth let out a sound that Vorthak's translator interpreted as relief mixed with gratitude. They did it. Against all odds, in conditions that should have killed them all, they actually did it. Through the viewport, Vorthak could see the first of the human ships beginning to emerge from the nebula's outer boundary, their hulls blackened by radiation and electromagnetic discharge, but still intact. Each vessel carried a piece of hope, proof that no matter how dark the situation might seem, someone would always come to help. "Doctor," Vorthak said quietly, "I believe your people have just witnessed the birth of something unprecedented in galactic history. The humans have shown us what true civilization looks like." As more ships emerged from the nebula, Vorthak made a mental note to recommend significant changes to assembly policies regarding humanity. Any species capable of this level of selfless commitment deserved more than just membership in the galactic community. They deserved leadership roles, trusted positions, and the recognition that came with being the galaxy's conscience. The rescue fleet was coming home, and with them came 17 lives that proved sometimes the impossible was just another word for what humans did every day. Captain Maria Santos gripped the command chair of the heavy cruiser Defiant as another electromagnetic pulse washed over her ship. The bridge lights flickered, and she could hear the distinctive whine of overloaded power systems throughout the vessel. Around her, the crew worked with practiced efficiency, their movements smooth despite the chaos surrounding them. "Hull integrity holding at 87%, reported Commander Jackson from the engineering station. "Radiation shielding is taking a beating, but we're still within acceptable parameters." Through the main view screen, Santos could see the Zalani research vessel, pristine thought tumbling slowly through the cosmic storm. The alien ship's hull was cracked in several places, and its elegant curves were marred by radiation burns and impact damage. Somehow it was still holding together, testament to the surprising resilience of Zalani engineering. "Distance to target?" Santos asked. 2,000 meters and closing, Captain," replied Lieutenant Kim at the navigation station. "The electromagnetic interference is playing havoc with our sensors, but I'm maintaining visual contact." Santos nodded, studying the tactical display. The rescue operation had been planned carefully during their approach through the nebula, but she knew that no plan survived contact with reality. The conditions inside the Corex Nebula were worse than even their worst-case projections had suggested. "Captain, I'm reading 17 life signs aboard the Zalani vessel," reported Dr. Hassan from the medical station. 12 are showing signs of severe radiation poisoning, but all are still alive. Their ship's emergency life support appears to be holding, but just barely. "Time until life support failure?" Santos asked. "Based on Zalani physiology and the decay rate of their emergency systems, I estimate no more than 6 hours, Captain." Possibly less. Santos felt the familiar weight of command settling on her shoulders. 17 lives hung in the balance, and every decision she made in the next few hours would determine whether they lived or died. It was a responsibility she had trained for her entire career, but one that never became routine. "Communications. Raise the other ships in our task force." "Aye, Captain. I have the Lightning and Thunder standing by." The split screen activated. showing the faces of Captain Wu aboard the destroyer Lightning and Captain Okafor on the Thunder. Both officers looked grim but determined, their ships holding position despite the electromagnetic chaos swirling around them. "Captains, we need to coordinate our approach carefully," Santos began. "The Zalani vessel is too damaged to dock normally, and our tractor beams won't function reliably in these conditions. We're going to have to do this the hard way." Captain Wu leaned forward. "Boarding pods?" "That's my thinking. We'll establish a 3-ship formation around the target vessel. Each ship launches armored boarding pods with full radiation shielding. We evacuate the Zalani in groups of 5 or 6, depending on their physical condition." "What about the electromagnetic interference?" asked Captain Okafor. "Our navigation systems are barely functional as it is." Santos had been thinking about that problem. "We go manual. Old-fashioned piloting with visual references and dead reckoning. It's going to be dangerous, but it's our best option." The 3 captains spent the next 20 minutes coordinating their approach. Each boarding pod would be equipped with independent life support, radiation shielding, and medical equipment. The pod pilots would be volunteers, since the mission carried significant risk of equipment failure or navigation errors that could prove fatal. "Captain Santos," came a voice over the communication channel. "This is Sergeant Martinez requesting permission to lead the first boarding team." Santos wasn't surprised. Martinez was one of her best NCOs, a veteran of dozens of dangerous boarding operations. If anyone could pull off a rescue in these conditions, it was him. "Granted, Sergeant. Take your best people and get ready for launch." As the Defiant maneuvered into position, Santos watched her crew prepare for the operation with characteristic human efficiency. The boarding pods were checked and double-checked. Emergency medical supplies were loaded, and volunteers lined up for what everyone knew was an extremely dangerous mission. "Captain, I'm receiving a transmission from the Zalani vessel," reported the communications officer. "Audio-only signal is very weak." "Put it through." The voice that came through the speakers was thin and distorted, but clearly desperate. "Human vessels. This is Dr. Yenth aboard the Pristine Thought. We can see your ships. Is it really true that you have come to help us?" Santos took the microphone. "Dr. Yenth, this is Captain Santos of the human vessel Defiant. We are here to get you and your crew to safety. We're launching rescue pods now. Please prepare your people for evacuation." "Captain Santos, I must tell you, several of our number are in critical condition. The radiation exposure has been severe. We may not survive transport. Doctor, we've brought medical teams specifically trained in radiation treatment for your species. You're going to be fine. Just hold on a little longer." Santos could hear the relief in the alien scientist's voice. "Thank you, Captain. Thank you all. We thought we were going to die out here." "Not on my watch, Doctor." The first boarding pod launched from the Defiant's port bay, piloted by Sergeant Martinez and carrying a full medical team. Santos watched on the tactical display as the small craft navigated through the electromagnetic storm, using visual references and intuitive piloting to reach the damaged Zalani vessel. "Pod 1 to Defiant." Martinez's voice crackled through the static. "I have visual contact with the target vessel's emergency airlock. Initiating docking procedures now." The next few minutes were tense ones. The boarding pod had to match the tumbling motion of the Zalani ship while maintaining a stable approach vector. Any miscalculation could result in a collision that would destroy both vessels. "Docking successful," Martinez reported. "We're cutting through the emergency seal now. Stand by." Santos held her breath as she waited for confirmation that the boarding team had made contact with the Zalani crew. Everything depended on those first few minutes. If the aliens were too badly injured to be moved, or if their ship's atmosphere had become toxic, the entire rescue operation could fail. "Defiant, this is Martinez. We have made contact with the Zalani crew. I count 17 individuals 12 showing severe symptoms of radiation poisoning. Dr. Chen is examining them now and believes all can be safely transported. Relief flooded through Santos. Outstanding, Sergeant. Begin evacuation immediately. Priority to the most critical cases. The evacuation proceeded with military precision. Each boarding pod could carry up to 6 Zalani at a time, depending on their medical condition. The most severely injured were transported first, accompanied by medical personnel who continued treatment during the dangerous journey back through the electromagnetic storm. Dr. Hassan had established a complete trauma center in the Defiant's main bay, equipped with everything needed to treat radiation poisoning in multiple species. The human medical team had spent hours studying Zalani physiology and preparing treatment protocols specifically for this mission. Captain, first group of evacuees is aboard and being transferred to medical, Hassan reported. Their condition is serious but stable. The radiation treatment is already showing positive effects. Santos watched as the boarding pods made repeated trips between the ships, each journey a carefully choreographed dance through the cosmic chaos of the nebula. The pilots were pushing their equipment to its limits, relying on skill and intuition to navigate conditions that would challenge the most advanced automated systems. Pod 3 to Defiant, came another transmission. We've encountered a problem. The Zalani ship's airlock is beginning to fail. The structural damage is worse than we thought. Santos felt her heart rate accelerate. What's your status, Pod 3? We've got 4 more Zalani to evacuate, but the airlock won't hold much longer. I estimate we have maybe 10 minutes before complete structural failure. Santos made a command decision. All pods, accelerate evacuation procedures. Get those people out of there now. The final evacuation was a race against time. Santos watched the tactical display as the last boarding pod undocked from the failing Zalani vessel, just as its emergency airlock finally gave way. The alien ship began venting atmosphere into the void, its elegant form slowly coming apart under the stresses of the electromagnetic storm. Final evacuee aboard, Martinez reported. All 17 Zalani accounted for and receiving medical treatment. Santos allowed herself a moment of satisfaction before focusing on the next challenge. All ships, prepare for withdrawal from the nebula. Navigation, plot us the safest course to clear space. The journey out of the Corax Nebula was almost as dangerous as the rescue itself. The 3 human ships had taken significant damage from electromagnetic discharge and radiation exposure. Their navigation systems were barely functional, and several critical components had failed completely. But they made it. 6 hours after entering the nebula, the rescue fleet emerged into normal space, battered but triumphant. Waiting for them was an impressive array of ships from multiple species, including several assembly vessels and a full Zalani medical ship that had rushed to the scene. Captain Santos, this is Dr. Zenth aboard the Zalani medical vessel Healing Light, came a transmission. We are prepared to receive our people for advanced treatment. How are they? Dr. Hassan answered before Santos could respond. Dr. Zenth, all 17 crew members are alive and stable. We've been able to reverse most of the radiation damage using human medical techniques adapted for Zalani physiology. They should make complete recoveries. There was a long pause before Dr. Zenth replied, and when she did, her voice was filled with emotion. Dr. Hassan, how can we possibly thank you? What you have accomplished should have been impossible. No species has ever successfully conducted a rescue operation in the Corax Nebula. No need for thanks, Doctor, Santos interjected. We just did what anyone would do. Another pause, then a different voice came over the channel. Captain Santos, this is Ambassador Vorthak of the Stellar Assembly. I have been authorized to inform you that the Galactic Council has voted unanimously to award humanity the Order of Universal Merit for this rescue operation. It is the highest honor we can bestow. Santos found herself at a loss for words. Around the bridge, her crew members were smiling and exchanging quiet congratulations. But what struck her most was how normal this all felt. They had received a distress call, responded to help, and succeeded in saving lives. To her mind, it was simply what civilized beings did for each other. "Ambassador, we're honored by the recognition, but really we were just doing our job." "Captain, with respect, what you accomplished today was far more than just a job," Vorthak replied. "In the past 12 hours, humanity has mobilized over 200 vessels, risked thousands of lives, and expended resources equivalent to the entire annual budget of some member worlds, all to save 17 beings of a different species with no expectation of reward or compensation. This is not merely commendable behavior. It represents a fundamental shift in what we thought was possible for galactic civilization." As the rescue fleet began its journey home, Santos reflected on the ambassador's words. Perhaps what they had accomplished was more significant than she had realized. In her experience, helping others in distress was simply what humans did. But apparently, such behavior was rare enough in the galaxy to be noteworthy. 3 months later, Santos found herself standing in the Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council on the neutral world of Harmony Prime. Representatives of 57 different species had gathered to witness the formal ceremony recognizing humanity's actions in the Corex Nebula rescue. The speech given by the Secretary General of the Council was broadcast to every inhabited world in known space. But what Santos remembered most clearly was the private conversation she had afterward with Dr. Yenth, the Zalani scientist whose distress call had started everything. "Captain Santos," Dr. Yenth had said, her translucent skin glowing with health and gratitude. "Before the rescue, my people viewed humans as an interesting but somewhat unpredictable species. We respected your technological achievements and your military capabilities, but we didn't truly understand what made you special." "And now?" Santos had asked. "Now we understand that humanity represents something we had thought was theoretical. A species that has evolved beyond mere survival concerns to embrace universal compassion. You risk your lives not because you must, but because you choose to. That choice makes you the most powerful force for good this galaxy has ever seen." 6 months after the rescue, the Galactic Council established the Universal Emergency Response Service, with human ships and crews forming its core. Within a year, 3 more impossible rescues had been conducted successfully, each one reinforcing humanity's reputation as the species you called when hope seemed lost. The Zalani research vessel Pristine Thought was eventually recovered from the Corex Nebula and restored as a monument to interspecies cooperation. Its crew returned to their research, but they never forgot the day when strange beings from a distant death world had risked everything to bring them home. And throughout the galaxy, when someone was in trouble, when the situation seemed hopeless, when conventional wisdom said nothing could be done, beings of dozens of different species would look to the stars and whisper the same 4 words. "Call the human fleet."